We made it.
We did it.
It's monthly
I
minutes.
I haven't done this for almost a year now, I
What?
think.
A year?
I like when was the last because I think it was like this almost I think the last time I did it was on my birthday, which was in September.
Oh, yeah. It's been a few months. It's been a
It's been a
minute.
hot second. It's been a minute.
It's been a year in hyperbole lives.
It's been 30 years.
I've aged so
Ten
much in that
thousand
time.
years.
It's been 89 years.
I've been frozen in ice, only thawed out to do podcasts.
Well, beautiful. Thank you all for joining me, and thank you to all the people watching live or after the fact. My name's Sierra, aka Mystic Musings, aka your GM, creator, and very tired human today. I'm not gonna lie, very tired human. Let's go around the horn. Oh, I use she, her pronouns. Here we are.
Um, I'm Ed. I'm also Livy. I'm not quite the creator of everything yet. Um, I have my own stream, which I've been neglecting a lot. But yeah, that's my existence summed up.
I'm
Beautiful.
Daniel. You'll know me as Marcus on the podcast. I use he, they pronouns, and you'll also find me as Hedral Wordsmith on various social things online.
Oh,
And I'm
found
Adam.
his
I
heat.
play Godfrey on the podcast. I'm known in circles as Fondue Rage, he, him pronouns. And I'm just been living D&D for the last week. So
We deserve a cheer for that. Beautiful first grade around the room. Amazing. Okay, that's enough.
imagine the claps just go for the first like 15 minutes of the show. It's just us sitting quietly getting applauded.
The clip
It's
is actually
passing
like
the acclaim.
36 seconds long. I don't
That's a
understand
lot of applause.
why. Yeah, it's
Not
like a
enough for
standing
us.
ovation. Cool. Well, this is Monthly Minutes. This is our monthly Q&A and recap show where we talk about the last few episodes of the podcast, and then at the end we answer random questions from our Patreon and our socials and my brain sometimes. There are no bad answers. Only good things happen here. My brain is so tired, y'all. I'm not even kidding. Okay. So
I'm gonna
the
find those bad
first
answers. I'll do it.
yeah. Um, the first episode that we are going to talk about today is episode 25. Thinking back into your brains, because we're way ahead of that in even our play sessions, to episode 25, Navigating Deep Waters.
Oh.
Yes.
In this episode, you have just conquered the crabs and the turtle druid. The party decides to split. Godfrey, Ziba, small child, turtle druid, all on a small dinghy, and Marcus and Livy walking back on the beach. This play session and also this episode got so deep so fast. I think it was part of just like the day and everyone's moods, but like, were you all worried or excited to play? Like, if you think about that session or that day, like, did you think that was where it was gonna go? No, this was a long time ago.
I know I
Just a
didn't
pretty-
expect it to go this way.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
neither did I.
I kind of did. Only because I actually remember the end of the session before that better. And I remember in my head thinking Morgus and Levy are going to walk down that beach. there's going to be a role play moment. I don't know what it's going to be, but I need to be prepared for anything.
Hmm.
So I had thought about some, I don't want to say possibilities, but just a couple of things that I know about Levy and whatnot, and I was kind of like, okay, I can think about how Morgus might react to that or that. So
Yeah, for sure.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I it was a little bit like I knew there was something that was going to happen. For me, I was 50-50 on the fence about telling Morgus anything. Um, I think it totally depends on how the role play happened. And because I thought if there was one person Livy was going to tell his secret to, it was going to be Morgus. It was I was like, either Livy is going to tell someone or it's going to come out organically.
Hmm.
And I also his interactions with Dee Dee / Ziba / the child um, kind of have been influencing him to be a little bit more honest
Hmm.
traveling with.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense to me. Well, before we dive into that piece, what happens first? Scylla fights some rats, and then Godfrey and Ziva are out on the seas in this dinghy, and chaos ensues, as we all hoped and loved that it did. Adam, I sensed some frustration from you for like one of the first times in gameplay. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just Godfrey. But I was like, Adam really wants to get back to land. Or maybe Godfrey really wants to get back to land. And Avis and her new friend are just having a blast of the ocean. Talk to me about that for you as like a player and yeah.
Yeah, for me as a player, I wasn't frustrated at all in the moment. Like I figured it would be we get on the boat, it's just like a simple trip. Like we stay close to shore because you don't have to go too far out. Like if it's already there, we just go and we get to dock and it'll be great. And then the child eats a bunch of food and gets seasick. And that the other part was that we had like a running joke that I don't think made it to any recordings that I just constantly say that any D&D party can be a pirate adventure if you try hard enough.
Yes.
And so it gave that opportunity when the boat like flipped around and looked out to sea.
I loved that moment so
Oh,
much.
that has to be one of my favorite well, it's more of an Adam moment than a Godfrey moment, but it's just all your
Perfect
theater
moment.
experience in one moment. Just unless, no.
We could run away.
No, it wasn't frustration.
geez.
It was like, wow, how many rolls are going to go wrong? And how much longer can we make this boat adventure last? Like, how many errors are going to occur until we eventually just end up shipwrecked or like there's something that swoops us back to shore so we don't derail?
Yeah.
Shiria
It was fun.
sends a wind to. You're taking too long. This was supposed to be just like a fun little scene. It's the 5th episode.
That's when they get sucked into the water plane.
Yep. Yep. I mean, after that, you don't get into too much mischief, right? I mean, the child gets sick and Ziba does a bad job of steering for a little while, but you make it back to shore. The boat's a little scuffed, but it's fine.
Yeah, everything happened. We made it back to shore. We caught a good luck off a ship coming into shop. And we finally get to the dock and we mess up docking. And it's just like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah. And then after that, we flash over to Morgus and Ed, who very quickly just walking, you dive into the very deep conversation where we get the big reveal. Spoilers, you shouldn't be watching this if you haven't caught up, but this is a huge spoiler. Ed reveals that Livy is a Dampier. And Morgus takes it as the absolute king that he is. And Livy, Ed, your role play of that was so great. Like the vulnerability and the way you tell the story is so good. Talk to me about how that was for you guys.
For me, I used when I first came bi-in trans. Because I've never had to like tell someone, "Oh, I'm secretly a vampire" yet. I've never had to do that. And I'm like, well, I am both a bi and a trans, so maybe. So that's how I did it. And I've had this story in my head for a while. I actually sent it in a specific format to Mystic a while ago. And I was actually like, because I knew very specifically how Livy would tell the story, and how he would sound when he been having that rattle around in my brain for like months and months, and it was killing me not to tell anyone.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please, by all means.
I was just gonna pass it to you, so the fact that you picked up the ball was better.
Oh. And that's how we fumbled the ball. Sports ball analogies, signs of general intelligence and linguistic eloquence. Anyway, yeah, that whole beach conversation will definitely go down as one of my favorite moments in the podcast. Just of connection between two characters and two people, because I think it was also a very personal moment in the story. I've had friends come out to me. I had my own coming out experience of sorts, and I've also, in another campaign, played a character that was coded in that way, that part of their journey as a character was a coming out experience of sorts. And so I needed to figure out what Morgus's role in all of that would be, which is kind of one of the thoughts I had prior to the session. And because I know who Morgus is enough in his own context, with the Carousel Court, that he just needed to be an ally in that moment, and that's all. There was I have to admit, when listening back to that episode, I messaged Sierra. I'm like, why did you let me talk so long?
And
why did you let me talk so long?
That's so silly. There's even a moment where you were like, and Livy started speaking, and you're like, and if you're not done, I'm going to shut up. And I was like, yes, like that's holding space. Like that's so magical.
There was a lot of magic in that whole roleplay experience, and there was. I think it was a conversationally, it was two people learning to trust one another, because there was a little bit of that from Morgus as well. That, because it started with Livy asking a pointed question of, how do you know that thing?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know Infernal? And Morgus immediately deflected, quite obviously, and then came around and said, I was just giving myself time to think, and which, thinking about his charisma score, maybe that's... he's very smart, though. So, anyway.
Yeah. Well, we get the big reveal, it's kind of cut in half, right? Because I try to ping pong. I don't want the spotlight to be on anyone for too long. We pop back to Godfrey and Ziba getting off the boat, getting the turtle druid off the boat, and Scylla finds you all at the docks. And the small child grabs her hand, and Godfrey's like, "Will you please take this child home while I handle this turtle druid?" And Scylla throws a little buck about it, but does it, which I think that's absolutely in Scylla's character. But I'm curious from a character motivation standpoint, Adam, if Godfrey just cared more about justice in that moment rather than like getting the child home safe, or he just had full trust in Scylla to finish like the job that the party had started. I'm curious the thinking there.
It was more the latter. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like Godfrey trusts Scylla a lot. Like, she's been in the court before he was in the court, and they'd done a bunch of jobs together. And he, in his mind, this is a very simple task.
Yeah.
Like, we just got done defeating this turtle and a bunch of crabs. Godfrey almost got snapped in half by a crab, and he was just like, "I want this turtle to be out of." Just do the simple thing. It's really easy. I'm you weren't there for it, but it was the job we all agreed on. Like, I was even like, as a character, gonna be like, yeah, I'll give you like my part of the share for your help in this. Like, I really just have to take care of this.
Yeah. Well, we never got to that point.
Nope.
And Scylla and Ziba head up into the apartment housing to take the young boy home to his brother. Godfrey, you turn the corner and head to the guards that you can see on the main street close to the Honorina Gardens there. And neither of them are here, so we can talk as full spectators on the Ziba Scylla exchange of child for information and money. Obviously, money being the biggest thing that kind of comes back around. In game, when Scylla was like, "No, we're just going to take this. Don't let this happen again." Were you all like, "Oh no?" Or like, what was the reaction there?
I was conflicted because I think Livy would have done the same thing. But I also think a fundamental part about Livy's character is that if you work hard, you should be rewarded, i.e., knowledge should be rewarded with more knowledge, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "You didn't do it. You got to hold a child's hand for like 10 seconds." So
yeah,
logically, I was like, well, I was going to do that anyway. But emotionally, Livy was like, no. Why would you do that? I don't know if I was alone in that. I also think it was a really good character moment for her. Like, I'm not mad at her. I think like that's what she would have done, and I fully support it. It let the audience, because I think before Scylla was like this very like, she's very chill, like the cool older sister who's maybe a bit emotionally detached. That's how I always saw her.
She's Daria. Is that what I'm hearing?
And I thought it was really interesting because, like, while she was like, genuinely wasn't like, didn't really let her guard down, and I thought that was an interesting first moment of like her doing a kind of selfless thing, like truly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very interesting.
For sure.
Like that though.
I think one of the things I loved as just listening to that was seeing the juxtaposition from Scylla on how Scylla relates to children, right? Or just younger people. Because I don't remember the kid's name, but she was like, sticky fingers and this and that, and clearly irresponsible. Don't let it happen again. Blah, 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 blah. And there was a lot of like, "You get away from me," but like I want to make sure you're cool as well and safe. And yeah, fine, go home with your brother. Yeah, good. By the way, big brother, do better. um,
Yeah.
but looking back at that juxtaposed next to Scylla very readily engaging with you're a runaway and with Ziba essentially, and it is very apparent to me that as a listener that Scylla tunes in to Ziba readily
Hmm.
and is, I think, somewhat protective of Ziba. Or I don't know what that implies about Scylla's character or Scylla's background. Wait and see, I guess. But um, I just love to kind of see that the dynamic, the dynamic aspects of a character like that. It makes
Yeah.
them pop out from the page, as it were.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
The dittos on almost everything. Like I was a little taken off guard by the different reaction that she had to Oliver, because I was taking the experience with Ziba as being like, oh, like Scylla's like, this is just the thing Scylla does. Like Scylla will be fine with this. And then like hearing that all, I was like, whoa, is it there? I missed something. But Godfrey didn't. So he's just gonna like, that's fine. That's him.
Yeah. Yeah. Liz is in the chat. She said she's gonna cry.
Liz is
From
very
all of our
clever with her
kind
role play.
words.
Very, very clever.
She is. And that, I think we flash back to Ed and Morgus. We pretty much covered the whole conversation there. You all hang out on the beach on that piece of wood and just like have a heart-to-heart moment and connect and share stories. It's really great. And that is where that episode ends. And it's really interesting that we go from that episode, which was the end of a play session, right? To the next episode, Tensions Rise, which was the beginning of a different play session. People were in very different moods. And the name of the episode is the name of the episode for a reason. And I didn't realize it was a pun until after I had named it, which I think is great because Morgus does some baking in this episode. He makes some cheesy crab biscuits. But essentially, Scylla and Ziva stop by the food carts, get some cheesy biscuits. Everyone kind of reconvenes back at the court. But Godfrey has a moment with Fern and Gahesh coming back from the castle, walking back, where you glean some information on the goings on in the castle, which is, I don't know if you realize, Adam, but it was a really awesome moment for me as a DM to info dump because it needed to happen, but I wasn't sure how to work it in. And you just granted me this awesome gift of like, I'm going to hang out in this park until it gets dark. And I'm like, cool. That's exactly makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I had a very challenging but rewarding experience playing two NPCs talking to you at the same time, with very different vocalizations. But enough about me. As you as you were getting information that like no one seemed to care at the castle, but they were moving guards inside, were you like, oh, maybe we need to stick around, or like what were you thinking at that moment?
I mean, at that moment, I felt like it was kind of a next thread to pull on. Like it felt like we still had unresolved, like fallout from our combat inside the castle. And for me, I thought that was going to be like a focal point. Like, here's information, we should act on this. Like, this is important. I'm sorry, I fidget with things all the time on my desk, so
Me too.
I'm not sure if it's coming in on the mic. But every time I do it, I like stop myself midway and have to like put it down.
I need one of those fidget cubes. You know what I mean?
those are so good.
Oh, I have,
You have one of those, Ed?
yeah, I left it back at my house.
Oh
In my old
no!
house.
Well, cool. We get that info dump. Everybody comes back to the court, and there is a quick conversation, and everyone goes to sleep. You sleep off the crab battle, and you wake up, and you're all kind of like, what are we gonna do? But before the sleep, I'm getting mixed up. I apologize. Before the sleep, Morgus makes some cheesy crabby biscuits with Livy. There's a very sassy Morgus moment where you're like, if it tastes like shit, Livy made that one, essentially, which I thought was hilarious, but also I was like, whoa.
Morgus is. I don't know if it's been subconscious based on how I am feeling per session or day or what, but Morgus is definitely sassy. You know, I mean, another moment I remember is when Livy was up in one morning and had coffee, and I turned it pink. Livy was like, "Bleh, why would you do that?" I'm just fucking with you. You know, and I'm kind of like, I don't know
Now
what.
that added context is way worse because like you were literally poisoning him.
Yeah, he didn't know.
I didn't know. You know,
He didn't know. It's so much funnier though.
but
Yeah.
those were both moments when my character kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, definitely sassy.
You all convene, and Godfrey, it's at that moment you decide to talk about the potions that Avinash had given you. Specifically saying, I don't know what these do, drink them in combat, write down what happens, and let me know. And as you're giving them out, Livy just grabs one and drinks one. And this, I mean, Livy had made his opinions of drinking these potions in combat known prior to this moment, right? So we knew that there were hesitations, but I would love for you all to just like talk through this for you as a player, and then also like as a character, all of that.
So I'm gonna be honest. I have some auditory processing issues. So sometimes I hear people very, very well, but sometimes my brain decides to like shift around people's sentences. So I thought we were going to start drinking them there. So I just said, Livy drinks it. And then by the time everyone's reactions, I'm like, well, I committed. So I'm just going to do it.
I said it, so it's done.
I said
Yeah.
it, so it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how my brain F's with me. But you know what? I think it was funny.
I think it was funny too.
It was hilarious.
And the way you spoke about it, like this is research. Like the way I would have never known that, Ed, because the way you like characterized it, I believed you that it was something that Livy would do to like want to have that happen in a controlled environment, and like, yeah.
Yeah, I had to make that up pretty fast.
One of the things that I loved about one of the things I loved about that detail was Morgus kind of there were two different like research styles or opinions on how to research that bubbled up, and Morgus was like we need a very objective view of what happens, and Livy was like morality matters, and Morgus is like data matters. You know, it was really cool.
It's very social science versus material sciences.
Yeah.
I don't know what the proper word is, but yeah.
That works.
So you all try to go outside, and it wears off, and come back, and there's this whole hubbub, and there's this whole thing about like who's gonna take what potion, and Scylla's like, I'm not taking any potions. And at first Livy's like, I don't want any potions either, and then Godfrey's like, I'll take all the potions, I don't care. It really helped me. And then it kind of like just settles, everyone except for Scylla takes some potions and the party kind of just settles. But tensions are still there's still some edge in the air. There's still some spark happening from the shocking grasp potion that Livy drank, right? And Avis decides that Dee Dee's gonna go to bed. And while Dee Dee is getting ready for bed, Livy comes in and begins to speak with her about a homeschooling program.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Ed had talked to me about this prior to this moment. And I was just like, yeah, if you want to, if I think that's totally something Livy would do. Like, that's cool. I did not think at all about like character reactions. I was just thinking like, is this something that's okay for me to do? Absolutely. Fuck yeah, do it. And then we got that reaction. Which
totally
is
makes sense.
it totally does, but it was so heated. Yeah. How are you feeling in those moments?
I was like, Avis is a really good role player because I definitely feel like I'm talking to a 12-year-old.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think Livy is used to talking to 12-year-olds.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, I also, so I based Livy half of on my partner, my IRL partner, and half on my grandfather who is Jewish. And that's where a lot of like the backstory comes from, which is very similar to like my grandfather's situation when he was a child. So the knowledge is super important, and like it's all you have, and you have to. That comes very much from him. So it just did not register to Livy like why you wouldn't want to do this. This makes no sense. You weird child, you. Especially since he was like a very like a nerd as a kid and enjoyed this. I think this was a good lesson for him as a person. But he was.
That's totally fair. I edited this episode and it was a wait. Like, I don't know. I've talked about this multiple times. I listened to the whole episode at least twice in the editing process. And specifically that end, there were so many just like strings pulled in me mentally. And I don't know if Adam and Daniel, you felt the same, but it was like the immigrant story, the bad at school story, the I want to do what I want with my life without my parents or my parental figure telling me what I can and can't do story. Like, so many pieces of that were just like wrapped in there, and every time I listened I like got hit with another one. And I think I even messaged the group in the Discord. I was like, I need to step away from this for like 2 days. Like, I need to not be in this right now. And that's just a testament to you and Avis. And like, it wasn't just Avis, it was the both of you role playing that so immaculately.
Aww.
I just sat there and listened and was like, this is intense.
It felt very intense at the time.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and I had to take a deep breath a few times to remind me, this is just a game. Avis does not mean any of this. This is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's difficult to like detach yourself from characters. Hopefully, I think I was able to do that and take a few deep breaths, but it was a challenge at the time. I definitely remember having to do like be alone for like a second after the podcast and just and be in my own thoughts for just a second.
Yeah. I think it's also, I have a question for you, Adam, that's I've been curious in my mind. When I finally pass it back to the party, you're like, well, Godfrey went out to the beach. Is it a full moon? And we have a little conversation about that. But was that already planned in your brain, or were you like, this tension is not something that I want to witness and I'm going to remove my character from the situation?
It was mostly that. It was a reaction to everything that had happened that day. Because like if you recap that whole day, it was a day. Like,
It was a
it's a
day.
lot of shit happening. Godfrey was just kind of fed up, and just needed to like take more time to just like recenter himself.
Yeah, for sure. And Morgus and Scylla are just sitting at the big buffet table in the main room, overhearing this. As you know, Livy and Dee Dee are behind a closed door, but you know it's still the voices escalate. And I think Daniel, you said something funny, very Morgusy about food to like break the tension between you and Scylla.
Yeah, it was Morgus. Morgus did go and like knock on the door at one point, and they're like, "We're fine." He's like, "Oh shit, all right." And getting back, there was this back and forth with Scylla, and I did this very like I leaned into this seriousness of right before I asked the question of like how much this meant to Morgus. Could you compare these cheesy biscuits to the other ones and like let me know? Like, are they better? They're better, right?
But you also had this beautiful quote about friendship
Oh, I forgot about that totally. Oh my
and about
gosh.
how you're like they'll be fine. They'll be fine. The reason this is happening is because they care so much for each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. How did Morgus
It was
phrase
way
it?
more eloquent
Something
than
about,
that.
you know, this is how relationships and friendships are forged, and they care about one another very much. They will be fine. Something like that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, that I believe in that firmly as a person, you know, from my family unit growing up.
Yeah.
You know, it oftentimes when people uh react like that. I mean, one of the things that Ziba said like really hit me really hard, especially listening back to it. Because I when I'm a listener, I'm just in a totally different headspace.
Mhm.
Um, was when Ziva was saying, you know, if you really trusted me, like if you're really treating me like an adult, something like that, you would trust me to make my own decisions. To you would trust that I am making the right decisions for me and that I'm doing what I want to do. Because that resonates so much with my own life, particularly like just post high school, that kind of thing. Um, but when people have such a passionate reaction in a conversation or argument like that, it's because they're so vested in that person.
Mhm.
You know, it's not just that they care; it's that there's a lot of energy and investment put into that relationship, purely selflessly. You know, and that's one of my favorite aspects of the cast and the story, the party rather than the cast. Um, uh, is that this dynamic between Ziba and Livy started from the very beginning. And that's one of the strongest narrative threads we have. Not that it won't get stronger, not that the whole picture won't, uh, fill out, but for a little while, it was very much Livy and Ziba's story. You know, and
Yeah.
this altercation was a really cool conclusion, or like a climactic moment that displayed that.
Yeah. For sure. Well, a lot of things happened in those two episodes. And then we got a pretty light one in episode 27, which is just called Preparing for the Road. Um, you all wake up to find Weaver, Gahesh, and Fern not at the court, nowhere to be seen. Um, breakfast has been made, coffee is there, but they're not about. You see Linus and Ulu, and Scylla goes and asks Linus where everyone went and finds out that there were murmurs of war. And I'm super curious at that word how you all felt in that moment, knowing what you know about the world and the campaign so far.
Concerned and confused. Confused.
Confused.
Confused.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a lore nerd. I really like deep diving into like that's my favorite thing, and there was nothing more I wanted to do than find out exactly how, why, and if it had anything to do with the demons. So I want to know so much. I want to know so much.
It's the whole campaign. You're gonna find out more. It's part of playing D&D.
Yeah, but
What about you, Adam? What were your thoughts at the word war?
I was curious. I was curious and like as Godfrey concerned, but Godfrey doesn't feel like that pride towards Florencia. I guess it was more of like a passing curiosity for him. For me, it's like, wow, is this the direction our campaign is heading in? How is this going to impact us? Should we go be dealing with this right now, or are we going to go to Wimston?
Yeah, and then you decide to go to Wimston. You all
Yeah.
decide to go to Wimston. You say you're going to take a few days to like gather supplies and gather intel. And this episode really is just a bunch of fun, very mellow apple shopping. Ulu makes a deal with Scylla about her gauntlets. Honestly, this episode and the beginning of the next episode 28 kind of meshed together because it's literally just preparing for the road. It is the name of the episode. And there's a new running joke that happens in the party about Morgus not being heard because he's small, which is interesting.
Oh, that comes back on Morgus in the episode that just launched this week, and it's so brilliant. And I Morgus was speechless, and I was speechless.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments in, I think it's in Preparing for the Road, is what I've come to picture as just a very defining, like character defining trait for Morgus is we wake up in the morning after, the Ziba and Livy altercation, and Morgus makes breakfast for everybody, and then goes out with Ziba and immediately goes to a breakfast cart and buys even more breakfast.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And I had completely forgotten that Morgus had cooked breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
we
it's-
find
breakfast.
we find in your exchanges too, you hear the town crier talks about druids are to blame with a strange illness of the princess. That the war is whispers of a war brewing with synth grab or going through the land. And then we also learn a little bit about Avis's sentimentality towards her family and her region, which I think is a really cool softening in that character, which continues, as we all well know, but the listeners, no spoilers for them. So you try to take a cart, you don't take a cart, you pack the cart, it's very sitcom as you all run around back and forth to the cart. Gahesh walks up with a pack of raspberries and kind of gives you the download. He says that they don't really have a lot more information than what you already have. Guards are being moved into the castle, and there's a call for healers to come, but they've got it, and y'all should do your job and find the missing people in Wimston. Did you still want to stay at that moment, or were you all like, nope, we're gonna go. We're going to Winston?
For me, I was
kind
like,
of wanted to stay a little bit. I think it made sense to go, especially with like missing people and just the reality that like like what could our characters really do?
Hmm.
Um, which is one of the things I really like about our podcast is that this the protagonists 100% of the time. Um, like I mean, like most of like Livy's from Florencia, but most of us aren't even from Florencia. Like all of this other stuff, like in reality, our characters have very little to do with this besides being from the Carousel Court. Um, which I really like. The world shouldn't revolve around us.
Yeah,
But out of
absolutely.
curiosity, I did want to stay really badly.
Yeah.
I think I remember Morgus's. I think like Morgus's reaction to hearing about the war was very much like, "Oh, that's not good. How might that affect us? That might make traveling on the road interesting." Because like I think we had like elected to go to Winston, and then we heard about the war, and at least for Morgus, it was very like, we're being trusted to do this job. We need to trust that Weaver is going to take care of this with the rest of the court. You know,
Mhm.
being a member of the rest of the court. So it's at least that's what I remember of where Morgus was at in that moment.
Yeah. Well, you all do. You hit the road. There's a great conversation between Livy and Scylla about her lack of want for new things. And you make camp. And at camp, during your watches, you all discover that rangers are patrolling pretty heavily the road to Winston, because the closer to Winston you get, there have been knoll raids. Which there's this beautiful moment where Adam's rolling dice and you're like, that just solidified something in my backstory. And and I love those moments, but can you like speak to what happened without giving spoilers?
well, I mean, what happened was I got a natural 1 on the perception check. So, for me, that translated to Godfrey got this information and just stared into the fire and remembered.
Mm,
So
yeah.
he's maybe ruminating on memories and feelings that he's been trying to work through that have been brought back up.
Yeah. That's awesome. Not much happens other than that on the first half day on the road. But on the second day on the road, you all stumble upon an opening of wildflowers. And these wildflowers are in this meadow opening where the trees break, and it's just spring flowers all through this high mountain meadow. And there are pseudo dragons sleeping inside them, which you all find and see. And Livy even knows what they are and says, let's not disturb them. And then Zibble really wants a flower without a pseudo dragon in it, goes inside, fails her dexterity check, and awakens a bunch of pseudo dragons.
And I quote, innumerable
And
enemies.
an innumerable amount of pseudo dragons.
Here's the thing. It wasn't a matter of if, but when we were gonna wake up these pseudo dragons.
True.
The moment I realized, I'm like, one of us, for some reason, is gonna wake these guys up. I think that was perfect in the way in which we did.
Yeah. And that was the end of our play session. I was like, and there's an innumerable amount of pseudo dragons, and that's where we're gonna end our session for tonight. And you all were like, wow. which is beautiful. I think we lost Ed, but hopefully he comes back. And then we start the next session, and I swear to God, Adam, you had to have thought, like, what am I going to do in this moment? Because what you did was so beautifully planned.
It was what I was going to do at the end of last episode. Like when we
Okay.
ended that recording, I was like, okay, this happens. Godfrey's going to do this. But then you called the episode, and I was like, all right, I'll sit on it for 2 weeks, I guess. Just think about it and the ways it could go wrong.
Yeah. Can hear you, Ed. We just can't see you. Yeah, so you just full monk do the thing, and everyone decides to run away. Morgus is last in initiative and also has the shortest legs.
Yeah. Yeah, in that moment, as we were going through initiative, I expected someone to do something, either aggressive or like intrusive, but we all just ran. I think Scylla was the one who's like, I'm going to cast Sanctuary on Ziba.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's really wise. What does Morgus have? What can Morgus do? And then, like I just remember thinking as Morgus, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I think there was this moment where Morgus looked around and went, oh no. I'm like, wait, stop, help.
Yeah.
And then immediately kept running past the party.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I think that's cool. And unfortunately, this is where we have to stop talking about the episodes, where we won't have time for questions.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good place to stop with the recap. We got Ed back. Hello.
Hey,
Ed.
things are a bit weird right now. I think it shut off my headset.
That's okay. I
Huh.
can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you guys too. I'll fix this later. It's just for my computer was like, computer will not allow Riverside to record you.
Yeah, that's a thing. Well, cool. We're going to transition to questions.
Yay!
The production value.
Production value. Beautiful. Scylla asks, what y'all been rolling lately? And like, I don't just mean dice. How y'all feeling about your recent rolls?
Oh, I read this question.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, Adam, go ahead.
I don't know if I understand the question.
You can take it however you want.
I'm sorry if you're still listening.
One of the things that I've noticed, at least, and it's not how I'm rolling, it's actually how Sierra's rolling, because every time Morgus has used his chronal shift, I'm like, I'm gonna be a badass wizard and change that. Oh, it still hits. It's just not a natural 20. Cool. I did something.
You did it.
Nice. And then, oh no, that thing's gonna hit me. I'm gonna use my chronal shift. Ow!
No.
You know what? I am. This is just me as a person. I cannot lie. Like, I refuse to do it. I refuse to play pretend in any context where it really truly matters. And to me, fudging dice rolls is the stupidest thing players can do because it's part of the game. Like, it's part of the chaos. I genuinely have been rolling that well, and it's gonna come back around. Like, I know I've played with you all in other contexts, and I think there was a one shot that I played where Daniel was DMing and Godfrey and Adam was playing, and I rolled nothing but ones the whole fucking time. Like, it just ebbs and flows.
I'm trying to remember which one that was, but I do remember a night where you were like, what is going on?
I think I rolled like 7 ones, and then I blamed our dear friend Steph at Arcane Hollows because I was using her dice, and she was like, "If that happened that many times, that's you. That's
Yeah.
Your fault.
That's Wheaton adjacent.
Yes.
Exclusively ones and twos and threes on perception and stealth rolls.
Yeah, but you've been
Like,
killing it. Well, you have a great modifier
I have
for
a-
like history.
I have a
and-
huge so I've been mostly getting like 15 for for persuasion checks, which has made the illusion I'm getting good dice rolls. Which I think
That's
I
a
got
bard,
like
man.
a
That's a bard.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Godfrey's had like pretty normal rolls, like very
Yeah,
even
It's been-
keel.
very average. Low
Yeah.
to like mid high. You know, one nat 20, a couple nat ones. Like we're good. We're even.
Yeah.
I think Morgus has bad luck with Firebolt. Like really bad luck. But it's really
Mm.
pretty, so it balances out.
And what am I rolling? I'm rolling either Arcane Hollows or Cozy Gamer. I have one Chessex set that's in my dice tray, but I literally have never used it. I think I just like to look at it because it's like shimmery orange.
I have a of a dice. It's just like this big. I've never used it for anything practical. It's just there. I s- gaming shop and like, I'm not gonna use that, and then I bought it anyway.
I need it. I've got evolution dice, and I've got one big D20 that's got EV on it, and I just leave them sit.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just have like I bought a tube of dice that were all gray. I was like, yeah, I'll use these dice.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I completely for over 2 years I've had this, and I forgot about it. I was using a boiler head, but I have a dice tower and like a dice tray.
Hey,
And I forgot
yeah.
about that.
it looks like Die
Nice.
Hard. Or, well,
I got it because it was gay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Another question for you all. What is the most important routine that your characters have that they maintain?
I mean, for Godfrey, it's when he goes off and does like his whole yoga dulcimer routine thing. Because not only is it just like his way of recapping, but it's also his way of meditating for key. So he just
Mhm.
kind of blend in that role play with a mechanics driven section of him.
Yeah.
Livy will journal without fail, regardless of what happens. Just what he
Morgus,
does.
Morgus's daily routine every morning has not actually been shown on the podcast yet.
Hmm.
'Cause I don't believe I've alluded to it. Once when they first met Morgus, and then another time when Morgus and Godfrey were talking after the demon battle. It has not actually been shown like to the audience yet, other than Morgus making breakfast pretty much every morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morgus does have a ritual, and it is part of him being a wizard, and he's I think he's private about that. I'm not sure why, but he is.
Nice. We have 1 minute left. Do you all have any questions for me?
Who's the big bad?
If
Who's the big bad? I don't know.
Here's the big bad. Spoil things for us.
I'm the big bad.
Oh
if Dee Dee hadn't wandered into the flowers, was something else going to wake up the pseudo dragons?
It was a skills challenge regardless, right?
Okay.
So it would have been stealth checks, and the save is not easy. I'll say that.
no! Livy would have failed.
Okay.
It was either
What?
DD or Livy. One of
Is there a potion in the basket of potions that you
Mhm.
as a DM are afraid of, or that makes you
Oh.
nervous?
Oh.
This is not a loaded question at all. Why would
I
it be a
got
loaded
rid
question?
of that potion,
I
Daniel.
know.
I got rid of the potion you're talking about. Because you all said how cruel it was last time.
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was amazing.
was this?
It's in my
What?
world. It's coming.
What was this potion?
Should we tell the world or not?
Okay, so I straight up stole this from Matthew, aka Anchor. I played in a campaign with him. He also had like a basket of random potions. His were almost all, I think they were all homebrewed potions. And one of them was a potion that transformed the drinker into a gibbering mouther. And the Wednesday group had that. Liz's bard character actually drank it. And to be honest, it was an improvement because I think you all were like level 3.
Yep.
So to become a gibbering mouther, although no other player characters could get close to her, like her hit points went up, her AC went up, her attack damage went up, like
No.
Yeah. So, but that we don't have to worry about that.
Not that
There-
potion.
How do these
Not that one.
potions? None of them scare me. None of them scare me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I wonder what we'll turn into.
That's the answer. I think only 3 or 4 of them are like modified homebrews. The rest of them are actual. This is the coast potions. Yeah.
Just been to drink them. I want to
know.
know. So curious.
Well,
I thought we didn't we agree that we were all gonna trading match and like Scylla was gonna be like the healer that was gonna make sure we didn't kill ourselves.
you
I
did
think
agree to
Livy
that,
agreed
and
to
then
that.
you never
we
did
didn't
it.
do it.
We didn't.
Morgus said
Well, I
no
just thought we were
such
gonna-
thing.
I just thought we were gonna do it next time. I'm very
Purposely just didn't bring it. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, it's a conscious decision from him.
I remember Morgus choosing like gold sparkly potions, going, "Oh, these go with my outfit, all right." And that was it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, cool. Thank you all so much for coming to Monthly Minutes,
Yeah.
listeners, everyone else, and we'll see you next month, next time, or Friday or Monday if you listen to the podcast. We're here. Our voices are around. We have a story to tell.
Yeah, permanently engraved on the internet forever.
That faces will never exist.
Indelible.